We have no producers. It's all us.
It's all you. I just sit here.
So sometimes it just feels like this. But when we want it to feel like this. But it's been kind of rough. I mean, Hollywood is definitely crumbling a bit.
It feels like it.
It does feel like it. And we're live.
We are live.
Episode 2.
Yes.
Frenzie Farm. Obviously, I can't talk. Frenzie Fam podcast, episode 2. Last week was on April Fools. Today, we are no longer being fooled by the Aprils of the world. I think we got a little bit better going on the mics. We had audio problems for sure. I wasn't talking into my mic properly because it was kind of like, all of that stuff. Hopefully everybody's having a good evening. If you are watching live, I don't think you are, but if you are, hello. And if not, hopefully you'll be watching this at a later date. You can check out our last broadcast, our last live. It is up fully over on our YouTube channel and on Rumble. Cut up a little bit, edited a bit, just for time purposes and getting rid of some of the shenanigans, as they say. But yeah, that's up, along with a couple other clips from the episode itself. We also were able to get Lady Frenzie. I don't know why I did that. We also have Lady Frenzie discussing a little bit of what's going on in the mortgage world, so we had to cut that out a little bit, and we clipped it into its own, so you can check those out. They are also available on YouTube and Rumble, so if you want to try it, would love it if you guys followed our Rumble channel as well as our YouTube channel. If you're watching now, please subscribe to the channel, share the show with your friends if you like it, and click the notification bell to be notified of future broadcasts, future lives, so we could talk with you in the chat. We'd love to see you. But yeah, Rumble Frenzie Films, YouTube Frenzie Films, Twitch Frenzie Films, Instagram Frenzie Films Official, TikTok Frenzie Films as long as TikTok lasts, and then Lady Frenzie is over there on TikTok as Lady Frenzie as well. We also do have the Frenzie Films stream team on Facebook. You can come join that. We try to update people on the upcoming streams and different things that we're doing. Yeah, all that good jazz. So hope to see you on any of those platforms at some point. But yes, let's get ready. Let's get going with this episode. Episode 2 of the Frenzie Fam podcast with Frenzie Films and Lady Frenzie. I'm going to kind of get this music going a little bit in the background, I think. Oh, I pushed pause, so that's probably why the volume's not coming. We have no producers. It's all us.
It's all you. I just sit here.
So sometimes it just feels like this. But when we want it to feel like this. Playing around, I guess. How was your day?
It was good.
You had to work over there in the other town today.
Yeah, it was busy.
Busy?
Mm-hmm.
Busy good, busy bad?
Busy good, but I definitely didn't finish everything on my list.
I don't think any of us will ever finish anything on our list. Been working on the comic book like crazy, and it feels like, it's like you have to find out where you can find your stopping points, because it's kind of interesting with that is I could go and go and go and go to my detriment.
Oh yeah.
Where I get really tired, really broke down. But it's like, okay, well, it's like find a stopping point, but where's the stopping point? Because technically I could just keep going and going and going, obviously till it's done. There's obviously a stopping point. Sometimes it feels like there is no stopping point, so you just gotta find like, oh well, if I can get to this point, then maybe I'll be done.
Yeah.
For the night. What say you with that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean you gotta just get through what you have to get through, and at least for me, mine's a little bit different because it's not just one task like yours.
No, but yours is in infinitum, because you're never gonna be like, okay, well I finished. You might finish projects.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of how I hope the comic book goes. We're doing more. We'll do more comic books.
Yeah.
And I know I kind of have to annoy you a little bit.
Not really. I'm pretty easygoing if you haven't noticed.
Yeah, but what is it like? Because like when I'm sitting there just going, and I do get like weirdly like tunnel vision.
You get locked in for sure.
To where like I don't even know what time it is half the time. I was like, it was just 3:00 in the afternoon. Now it's midnight. What happened?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm used to it though. I don't know. It doesn't
Right.
bother me.
Okay.
It is what it is.
Is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something when you really want to get something out, like because the Valerie Fox comic book is just. Gosh, I was talking to my best friend today, and I was trying to figure out like how long the idea had been sitting in my head for, and it's at least 15 years now. And now we might finally have something to share with people about the actual story. From trying attempts at making it a web series, attempts at making it into a film. And I said, hey, what can I control the most?
Yeah.
And that was a comic book, you know. And I was doing the main core of the artwork for a little bit, and it's just my inexperience really calculating it out. I feel like it would have took me 2 years. So we went out and found an artist, and not everything is the way that I would hope it would be.
No.
But it is good enough. I guess if you say that's a term. So we're getting there. And you guys will know we definitely know when it comes out.
Oh yeah.
When it drops. Hopefully people would be interested in it. I don't know. We'll have to find out. It's up to you guys. It's not up to me. It's just up to me to put the story out and see who grabs onto it.
That's all you can do.
And hopefully I can it's hard with comic books, especially the shorter form comic books, because we're haven't hit a graphic novel yet. So we're just doing the 25-page type comics, the floppies they call them. But so it is kind of a difficult task because I'm really big on story and hero's journey and how everything plots out, and giving people a real good polished story, without a lot of plot holes and without a lot of problems. But it is difficult. But hopefully we can. I'm hoping to nail that in that form. And hopefully we can nail it in other formats. The story, I think, in anything that you're doing in an entertainment is kind of important.
Very important.
And I think that's a good segue. Because I think a lot of people feel like story structure and all that stuff is like really missing in today's entertainment.
For sure.
Mainly Hollywood and mainly films. I think a lot more TV shows nail it nowadays than movies do. But it's been kind of rough. I mean, Hollywood is definitely crumbling a bit.
It feels like it.
It does feel like it. We a little out of focus, or is that just like the buffering? I'm gonna check something real quick because I feel like
looks okay to me.
It does look okay on this. It looks a little out of focus, a little fuzzy. But oh well, we'll just roll with it. We always trade one problem for another. That's kind of been the thing with our podcast and our streaming.
Yep.
We fix one problem, another one comes up. So it's just what we have to deal with, like Hollywood does. I know that when we first got together, there was a lot of movies you hadn't seen.
Oh yeah.
And you weren't really into it as much. I mean, I know you're not like necessarily a cinephile in the aspect in ways that I am. I'm very into movies, but I do think that like you enjoy movies.
I enjoy watching them.
Right.
I don't enjoy dissecting them and learning everything that goes into making them like you do.
Sure. But you're a good what's the word? A good base, because for someone who's just not like fully into it like that, you basically only have the ability to judge like I liked it, I didn't like it. It's boring, it's not boring.
Yep.
There's something wrong with this movie and I don't know what, but like it's just not keeping my attention. It's just not well done. I feel cheated in a way, because like I really hate shelling out funds for something and then be like, well,
That's the worst.
Why did I even pay for it? And of course today we're going to talk more about that kind of stuff, and I have my own views on like there is some things that I think people are missing as to why certain movies nowadays are bad, or not even necessarily bad, but just not what they used to be, and they're not as exciting or whatever. But just from like a casual movie watcher, observer, like what are some things that like you've seen or that seem to feel like, I know we had, a good stretch of Marvel movies for a while and, stuff like that. But what are some things that like you're feeling as far as like, ugh, I don't want to watch this anymore. I don't want to watch that anymore. What are some things that's kind of come into your head like when you're thinking about stuff like this?
Well, I just in general, I'm not like excited about
Gotcha.
anything. Like, oh, like you were talking about with the Marvel movies, the prime example when they were doing their good string of them back in the day, not the new ones.
Mhm.
I was like, oh man, I can't wait until this comes out. We have to go see it in theater. And it was
Mhm.
like, it was a thing. It was the thing to do.
Mhm.
Now, just like, if I watch it, I'll just wait till it comes out. I'm not that
If
excited.
you watch
If I
it,
watch it,
yeah.
it's big if. If I
Mhm.
watch it, I'll just wait till it comes out, watch it at home. It's not a thing
Mhm.
anymore. It's not exciting.
Right, and like what with a lot, there's like just nothing even new. Although there are some trailers that are kind of giving me that itch again of like, oh, I want to see that. That's kind of interesting. But I do feel like we're more likely now with trailers that like get me excited
Hmm.
that boom, it's gonna be disappointing.
Yeah, that's the other thing. So
Yeah.
first, if as a general rule, not excited about it. But then if it is, and the few and far between that we're like, oh, that'd be so cool. But then in the background, we're like going, please don't suck, please don't suck, please don't suck. And we're
Right.
like bracing ourselves to be disappointed.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of sad.
It's awful.
It is awful, and it's more awful that because like there's always times where they'll have a couple stingers. It's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
And but a lot of times what that used to be is just movies that not very many people like. It
Hmm.
wasn't necessarily because they just didn't do a good job, and I don't think majority of films go out when they first start filming it. They're like, oh, let's make a bad movie.
No, none of them
It's
do.
really not the thing. I think one of the problems in, I guess, quote unquote mainstream Hollywood today, without getting into agendas and different things like that, which there are a lot of agendas being driven there, and there's a lot of other podcasts out there you can go listen to about that. But one thing I think that gets missed in the conversation
Hmm.
is that majority of films these days, especially when they're in the hundreds of millions of dollars to make, or even in the 10 million, 20 million, which is not so common, but these films are being really driven by committee. And almost all the time you can tell, like when certain franchises get to a certain size, they go into these studios, and these studios, they're like, well, how did they just stray so far? Why is it so screwed up now? Because now
Hmm.
they're done by committee, and you've got all these different spots saying no, yes, don't do that, don't do this, instead of just hiring a director you trust, hiring writers you trust, and letting them go. But they're like, well, but we have a $300 million tied up in this movie.
Hmm.
We're not just gonna let them go.
Mm-mm.
And the problem is the proof is always in the pudding, as people like to say, and like it fails 99% of the time when the studio execs who aren't the creative people really dip their finger into the creative portion.
Yep.
Now, there's a lot of,
Stay in your lane,
yeah,
people.
stay in your lane. Don't hire the director if you can't trust the director. Don't hire the actors if you don't trust the actors. Don't hire, so on and so forth.
Hmm.
That's really where it comes down to. And now I get that it's a gamble, but and then I think studios get complacent when you have something like the MCU,
Yeah.
where it's just basically a printing machine,
Yeah.
like a money printing machine. They just get complacent. They think, well, we can make it, better. We'll just go in and do this. They're still going to come watch it, which technically is true. I mean, they lose money, but like technically, people are still watching it. They're still
Hmm.
making $100 million on a movie that bombed. Like
Hmm.
now, like there's movies that'll make $50 million opening weekend, and that's considered a bomb.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, when you consider the price of films to make in those big blockbuster movies, there's so many stuff, and I don't want to get into a big like back and forth debate on like how good unions are or whatever. But with the way things are set up now, you have so many different people you have to hire for a film just right off the bat before you even cast, before you do anything.
Hmm.
There's this X amount of PAs you have to hire. There's X amount. you don't even necessarily need all the positions to actually execute a film.
Oh.
So budgets get blown up,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're like, well, now we have to get, how many people to the box office just to make our money back?
Yeah.
And that's where executives, I think, get nervous and start
Mm-hmm.
trying to play the field. And there's a big difference between the reason why you saw a lot of movies back in the day that became timeless classics. The majority of those movies were the ones the studios didn't like.
Yeah, so they didn't try to get involved in. They're just
And
like,
they
whatever.
weren't too worried about it, so they let the people go.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the flip side of that, they let a lot of people go that ended up with bombs. But now, with how much money they're required to make back on these.
Mm-hmm.
The big risk that they see, in my opinion, is that it has to have mass appeal. And that's not how you really make good movies. You're making a movie that hopefully a certain amount of people like, and then you get lucky with things like Back to the Future, where a majority of people liked it.
Yeah.
You get lucky with E.T., where a massive amount of people liked it.
Mm-hmm.
This is why you get all these movies are like, hey, get it to PG-13, get it to PG-13, because then kids can come watch it without parents, blah, blah, blah. So, and then kids are a massive audience.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what they really, I think, one of the biggest struggles that these studios have. It really is that. I think at the end of the day, we could talk about all the other stuff that you could talk about, agenda-driven stuff that's ruined it. And yes, a lot of that ruins the story because they have to pigeonhole something in that didn't belong.
Mm-hmm. Very forced.
But
Still natural.
at the same time, I think more has to do with the studios. Like, oh, we have to spend in order to make this movie. It literally, before we even cast anybody, we're already looking at 50 mil.
Mm-hmm.
And then now you're like, okay, well, if we want this star, that's going to cost us about 20 mil. Want this star, it's going to cost about 15 mil. This star, go down the line. And and then how much time you have to film, you're like, well, then we're going to need this much because we're going to have to double this, double this, double this, double this. What's our VFX budget? This is why I think Marvel and some other studios are having complaints about their CG because they're just rushing it out.
Yeah.
They don't care because it's like, well, we hit this number, and dude, if we keep going longer on this, it's going to cost us X amount of money,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Time is
know
money.
we're not going to get that many people to the theater.
Yeah, so why waste time?
Because in order to make a really good profit off of some of these movies now, you have to be in the billions at the box office,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's a big struggle in that way.
Yeah,
And
for
I mean,
sure.
I also think like we forget too, because I hear it a lot. Well, Hollywood just has no new ideas, and there's no talent in Hollywood. Nobody's good at anything anymore, and that's false. That's false.
Yeah.
It's the studios and what they're trying to do, like all that stuff I
It's
talked about
stifling
coming
the
into part.
creativity.
Sure, if you want to use that term for sure, but it's not for a lack of talent, and I think you almost give them a weird pass by saying it's a lack of talent, because I think there is extreme talent in Hollywood, like extreme talent, and even to this day. So I mean, you could see it with the TV shows that people are doing, and the serial type stuff that's coming out. Like, there's so many good shows out there.
Oh yeah.
But and then you've got to also, you add in the factor of how streaming works and different things like that, and the saturation of films. Like before, you'd have like 4 or 5 films in like a few months. You go see them at the theater, and then you wait for them to come out on VHS or whatever. So it's a little different in that aspect too. But I guess with you being someone who's not as into movies as like I am, or someone like me would be, like, other than what you were talking about, like how do you feel about what I just said about that with what's going on with Hollywood, or what do you think is like the biggest issue?
I mean, what you were saying makes sense because I think there are multiple factors to it. Whether it be, I do think money is the biggest thing. which makes sense. I mean, it's billions of dollars to millions, or if not billions of dollars to make. I get it. It's an investment, and they want to make sure that they get the return on their investment.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that does jeopardize the product, the final product that they're trying to put out.
Right.
And with that, though, I mean, how they're interfering with that product, whether it's agendas or just rushing, or, trying to, like you were saying, trying to have the most mass appeal, I think that actually hurts them.
Mm-hmm.
Like with Star Wars, I mean, you're not going to get everybody to love Star Wars, but with some things that they've done in recent years, you're pissing off your fan base.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter if the masses enjoy it. If your fan base, that core, those diehards, don't like it, it's not going to be successful. It can't be.
Right, but then by definition, then all the masses don't like it. Like you're not getting. You're trying.
It.
What they're trying to do is get the widest berth possible.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Like, so the widest viewing pool, and which, like, Deadpool kind of shattered the notion of, like, because I believe, and I could be wrong, it was at least the highest grossing rated R film since, like, RoboCop. But, and I could be wrong on the exact details of that, but it's one of the highest grossing rated R movies of all time. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
This is why they shied away from rated R, and this is why also after Deadpool, they were trying to get R ratings on other films that were in the comic booky action adventure type things. But also when you think about it, okay, Deadpool 1, which I like Deadpool 2, but not as good as Deadpool 1. But here's the thing. Deadpool comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wanted to do that Deadpool.
No.
You know,
It took
I forgot the director's name.
years
but
for them to
Ryan
get it out.
Reynolds and that director who I think is great. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But so they didn't want it, they weren't backing it really, and then you end up going into a space where boom, you left it to the creators, and now everyone most people love that movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Get
so that's how I think you get mass appeal, especially when it comes to comic book movies.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to comic book or Star Wars, which already proven that they were
yes
of mass appeal on their own.
Yes. You don't mess with it.
It's called don't fuck it up.
Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix
If
it.
it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I get trying to explore other avenues and trying to branch off, and it is hard because they've done so many movies, especially Marvel Cinematic Universe and such. And when you look at the latest, the sequel trilogy of Star Wars, you could say, oh, well, this was, because they're beautifully done.
Yes.
And this is kind of why
they're
I felt
good
like,
movies.
oh, I think I'm going to like this. And I kind of liked it until it was like, no, they're really not going in the direction. And also what pissed me off the most about those, and I've talked about this ad nauseum, is they weren't a trilogy.
No. They weren't.
I know, because Rian Johnson made his own little film that really just went outside of their trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, would have been a little more forgiven if it was a connected trilogy. Like, you can knock on the prequels all you want, but they're connected. They're a trilogy.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And they work on the Skywalker lineage. It's a Skywalker story.
Mm-hmm.
This, they tried to shoehorn it in to be about Skywalker lineage, but didn't work out. And I guess the cliche of too many cooks in the kitchen is one.
Mm-hmm.
And also thinking, oh, well, screw them. We don't care. We're going to do it. We're going to try to generate a new audience. That's another thing is with Star Wars, I think they're like, let's pick up a new generation of audience members, of fans.
But you lost
the
your
way you did, but
core.
you still didn't even catch enough newer viewership.
Mm-mm.
I think this is the first time in a long time where I'm not hearing people talk about like their excitement towards Star Wars, or they're not waiting for a new Star Wars. Look what Mandalorian kind of got screwed up. But look at the TV shows were better.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like they were going to fix it through the Disney Plus stuff.
Yeah.
And because you were leaving Jon Favreau and them to like kind of do
just
their
go.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
And because Mandalorian wasn't next to like any core character, it was just a new Mandalorian that they came up with.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it doesn't hurt that they came up with a new iconic character puppet
Grogu.
with Grogu, so that kind of helped. But so like I think a lot of films nowadays are just in that suffrage mode. I mean, I remember back a long time ago, like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and other people talked about this kind of coming down, where I remember I was shocked the day that Steven Spielberg had a movie that he was having trouble getting greenlit.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that day saying, if Steven Spielberg is having difficulty greenlighting a film,
Yep.
something's wrong and we're in trouble. Because he ended up getting a greenlit, don't get me wrong, but someone like Steven Spielberg, that should have never been a conversation.
No.
Like, he has a track record where, like, you almost just greenlight him because it's Steven Spielberg,
Yeah.
and then
if
if
he's
it flops,
behind it, it's okay.
And then if it flops, it flops. But you just kind of go for that, right? There's a lot of people like that, like a Scorsese or Steven Spielberg, people like that. And like right now, it's what can I say his name? Inception guy, Christopher Nolan. So Christopher Nolan's kind of got that clout right now, but still, they scrutinizes every move. And nowadays, this is why, like, they're saying, like, well, people, because of streaming, people aren't necessarily into going to the movie theater. Give them something to go for.
Exactly. I would still go. It's a fun. It's an experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting out of the house. Like, it's. I enjoy the act of doing it, but I just don't want to because I don't. I'm like,
right.
It's not worth it.
Right. And as expensive as it is to go to the movie theater and do all that, people will still pay it.
Yeah.
Because they want the experience, and if you give them something that's worth that, that's gonna, and then people start talking. And what happened is that people were like, "Hey, it's not worth watching anymore. This isn't worth going to the theater anymore." And we could dissect how poorly done the MCU movies are now, but like a lot of it's just fatigue of like, well, every time we go, you slap us in the face.
Yeah.
Every time we go to the theater and do what it takes to go to the theater, we get, gut punched, and it's just not worth it. And so then people talk, and then nobody wants to go and try the new one. Doesn't matter; it could be great, but everyone's they have trepidation on trying to go see those movies now, and so I think that's going to affect the new Star Wars that's coming, all that stuff, all these big blockbusters. But and so a lot of these people are going to streaming platforms to do some of their movies. I don't know when the day is going to come, but I feel like people like Zack Snyder with his new Netflix deal, eventually they're not even going to put him on theater.
Yeah.
They're just going to be like, we're dropping it on the streaming because nobody's going to go to the theater because no one trusts us anymore. And I don't know how things work over at Netflix, if like Netflix and Amazon Prime can work deals out with theaters and originate their own films with these filmmakers, with these old good filmmakers, and then start releasing them to theater through that, because a lot of independent studios do. And people like Netflix and Amazon definitely have the funds and pool to do that. And I think with Netflix not really having a lot of executives that are just in the film space necessarily, or they're in the film space but not like that, they don't get involved in some of these projects anymore. Like, they let the creators do it, let it be what it is, because you get a niche audience, and then maybe it becomes mass appeal over time. Because you can't go into filmmaking, in my opinion, you can't make a movie saying like, okay, I'm gonna make this movie to get this many people to the theater or get this many people to watch it. You have to make a movie that you want to make, that you are dedicated to, that you have passion for, or whatever, and then you let the chips fall where they may. This is like, you can go from people like who have a real niche, rabid fan base, because like that's the thing, is like, what's the concentration of your fan base? It doesn't have to be, because you can have millions of people that kind of like your stuff but don't engage much, but then you can have like 100,000 to 1 million people who really love your shit.
Yeah.
And you're gonna make good money, because they're gonna be engaged. They're gonna watch your stuff. They're gonna go every time you do something. When you think of someone like Kevin Smith, who when he started out, it was all niche. Like, it was just, his philosophy was, if I like it, someone's going to like it. Now, is that 5 people, or is that 100,000 people? Is it a few million people? And now he has cult, timeless classics. And now to the fact that he's about to put out a new movie that I'm not even sure is going to be good. I don't know.
So we're gonna watch it.
But I'm going to watch it. Like, it's gonna happen. Like, there's no doubt in my mind I'm going to see it because it's Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
It's how I am with Quentin Tarantino. Now, Quentin Tarantino fits a bigger pocket.
Yeah.
He has a bigger chunk of people who like his movies. but he has loyalty in his fan base because he's never really let them down. You go to see a Quentin Tarantino movie, you get a Quentin Tarantino movie, and you get a good movie from based on what you like.
Mhm.
Like, sure, there's people that don't like Quentin Tarantino movies, but his fans that do, they're gonna watch everything he puts out. Boom, boom. Oh, it's Quentin Tarantino. I'm watching. Quentin Tarantino. I'm watching. Kevin Smith. I'm watching.
Mhm.
That's how Steven Spielberg kind of is. That's how he kind of was. But he got mass appeal. Like he had mass appeal blockbuster hits. But it's not that he set out to make a mass appeal movie.
No.
He
just
made
did
a
his
movie,
thing.
and he's in that blockbustery, action-y type of filmmaking style that somehow caught a bunch of people. And you've got to go into it like that, in my opinion, and you let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah. Just do your
You
thing
just do
and
your
do it to the
thing.
best of your ability.
Right.
And that's all any of us can do, really.
It really is, and I think that's what we're losing.
Yeah.
It's not that we're losing talent; we're just losing the ability to unleash these.
Mm-hmm. To let them do what they do best.
Right. I mean, because you had, even with Back to the Future, the two Bobs, Zemeckis and Robert Gale, they had the idea for Back to the Future for a while, and Bob Zemeckis had to go out and make Romancing the Stone, just to kind of prove to the studios he can make a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of went with the Back to the Future idea. I mean, there's a whole big long story behind that more.
Way more to it.
But I'm trying to condense as much as possible, and that's one of the most timeless classics that we've ever had in, I believe it's in the Library of Congress.
Really?
I don't know how that all works, but I know like literally they went and did a premiere at the White House, a showing with Reagan and different things like that. But it is what it is. It's just like a really amazing movie. You know, you get Jurassic Park, all these timeless ones that everyone can talk about, quote, and remembers fondly. Were pretty much movies that weren't liked. Not on 100% scale, but most. Dirty Dancing was not liked. RoboCop wasn't liked. Like Ninja Turtles, the first movie in the 90s, literally was pretty much shut down.
Mm-hmm.
That movie, basically, they all just kind of decided, hey, we want to keep doing it, and they found ways to get it out. And then it got big. They did what they did, and it was amazing, and everyone loved it. And the studio's like, oh, okay, but here's what we have to do now because we know better than the people who just created one of the biggest hits of all time in cinematic history.
You did okay, but we can do it totally better.
Right. We're going to make it to where more people can see it. We're going to make more money off of it. And the second one, for kids, maybe was good, but really wasn't as well received as the first one. And it does get kind of sad when you start thinking about how that works. Mm-hmm. We're getting deprived of certain films that we could have had. And then you get people who have all these indie studios that probably could do a pretty good job, but just don't have the means. And then you can't get certain actors because they're part of unions, and they won't do the job because, oh, well, we don't feel like we want to support this studio and blah, blah, blah. And it's all political, but more political in the way of like, not like politics and government, but
bureaucratic.
More how the game is played over there. And that's kind of what kind of ruined the film festivals for like indie creators, really. Because now it's all bigger people who should be doing movies in Hollywood, but for some reason Hollywood's all weird and saturated, like we were saying, and so they don't get the free reign. So now those people who would have been just doing Hollywood movies are now in the indie circuit. So it's not exactly the same thing it used to be. But yeah, speaking of like rabid fan bases, because we wanted to talk about this a little bit. A lot of rumors going around about a Supernatural reboot. Not even like a season 17 or 16, 17? So, yeah, they did 15. 16. A lot of talk about just rebooting the whole thing. Could you handle a Supernatural without Jensen and Jared?
No. I don't.
Just no.
That's my gut reaction. Mm-hmm. Would I force myself to at least try? Probably.
You didn't force yourself to watch the Winchesters.
Yeah, I think that's dumb. But that's the same. It's the same kind of mentality. It's not the same.
Okay, fair enough.
It's not novel. It's not. Yeah, why I liked it was so much. I think partially was because it was different. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I love Jensen and Jared too. So I mean that helps because it isn't like they were talking about on that one podcast we were listening to. I think Misha was saying it, or maybe Mark. I don't remember. One of them was saying that we literally like watched them grow up
Mm.
in the
Mhm.
series. Like it was like watching your brother over there, or like you
Mhm.
know, like you grew up with them too.
Mhm.
It was 15 years.
Right.
I know a lot of people that just streamed didn't actually start from the beginning, but you still saw that growth and that attachment formed. And I just don't know if I could. I don't know if I have that investment in me.
Mhm. Well, I think even the people that stream, they ended up watching in the beginning. Like Netflix really
I know, but I'm just saying
boosted them
it
back
didn't.
to
They didn't
prominence.
take 15 years to get through it. Is what
Right.
I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Time wise, so
I'm saying. I mean, literally the
yeah.
time, like, because if you watched it before the streaming, like I know you started at the beginning.
Mm.
That was a few seasons in,
Mhm.
but you had to wait for that
Mhm.
next season.
Mhm.
Like it was the time and investment in it too. It wasn't just the binge watching
Mhm.
to get it all in, which I mean that's fine, but I think it's not the attachments I think are different.
Right. Yeah, because I think too. Now that you say that, like thinking about it, you're growing too.
Yeah.
So you're getting older as you're watching them get
Exactly.
older. And I don't know how old was I. That came out in 2005.
I want to say give or take a year,
2005 ish. So let's see, how old was I? I was like about 22,
22, 23.
somewhere in there. So I was still a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the boys are around that age when that show starts.
Yeah,
They're
you're
in
pretty
their
close.
early 20s.
They're pretty close to your
Yeah,
age.
and so you go from that, and then you're growing old with them.
Mm-hmm.
Now I had to start it over a couple times for other people.
Yeah, and
And
we've chosen to rewatch it through streaming.
oh, for sure, we just watch it
multiple
all the time
times
anyway because it's just awesome, and we end up a lot of times we like ending it in season 6,
or just going from 6 to 8. That works too.
just going from 6 to 8.
Skipping season 7. That's what I mean.
Oh, yeah, you don't like season 7. I think upon rewatch to that though, there's some elements in there.
There's some storyline elements. I just don't like the season as a whole. I don't know why.
Right, a lot of people didn't know.
It just felt
They've even made
didn't fit.
self-deprecating jokes about it.
It didn't fit.
I don't think a lot. There's a couple seasons that don't fit.
That one sticks out the most. To me,
It does. It really does. But wasn't it? It is season 6, right, where they wrap up that main first initial storyline
Kinda,
that
yeah.
Kripke wanted. Because that's the end when they let out Lucifer. I'm messing this up.
That's the other thing that we really suck at because we have watched it so many times.
I think it's
What
season
happens
like
when
1 through
kinda
6
sucks
is
for
like
me.
what you would call like the core story where they wanted to go in the first place, and then they
Mhm.
had to try to figure it out from there.
Yeah.
Because one of the I think the best moment, or one of the biggest moments that launched Supernatural from this is fun, I really like watching the show, was Castiel being introduced.
Mm-hmm.
Like that took the show to a whole nother level. And I remember they talked a lot about Kripke said we are not going to do heaven, and we are not going to do angels, and we're not going to do God and all this. And then boom,
Yep.
comes Misha Collins, like Castiel. That's just the scene.
Yeah.
Just the introductory scene of the badass aliens, badass angels, was so incredible to me that took me from like, yes, I love the show, to oh my god, I'm in it.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
it's part of my life.
Yeah. But going back to your original question, I just don't know if I could do that again.
Gotcha.
Like I don't know I don't know if I could be that invested in something like that again.
Mm-hmm.
I might try and sit down and watch an episode or two. I'll try and give it a chance.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think it's just not going to do it for me.
Gotcha. Like I think too, really, it's, I guess the way you're describing it to me sounds like when we're like, it's like, should we have another baby?
Yeah, kind of. That's a very good analogy.
it kind of sounds cool, but at the same time, you're like, do I want to go through all that again? Do I want to change the diapers? Do I want to be heartbroken because they died for the eighth time and we're not sure if they're
Can actually come back or
actually
not
going to
this
come
time.
back or not? But then eventually you realize, yeah, they're coming back no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, we haven't talked about this publicly too much, and actually, we never got too far into it, even in private. But after all this time sitting on it, like, how, how would you describe the way you feel about Supernatural overall after the last season?
After it was like after it's completed.
Yeah, that's
like
all. The 15th season, from beginning of that season to the end, and then now, like, how do you feel about that? Like, how did that make you feel? How'd that make you feel, Lindy? Delilah.
Anyway, I don't know, and that's the thing too with how it ended. I liked how it ended. I felt like it was an ending.
Mhm.
Like it was wrapped up nicely. Like not everybody got brought back, in heaven or whatever, but like I was satisfied.
Gotcha.
It wasn't like it got canceled in the middle of something, where they ended on a cliffhanger, and you're like,
Right.
no, I need more.
Right.
I don't need more.
Okay. You don't need more.
I don't need more. I thoroughly enjoy it. I will keep rewatching. No problems with that.
Mhm.
So in that sense, yes, I want more, I guess.
Mhm.
But how it ended, I'm good.
Good.
Yeah, I'm satisfied. I think
But
that's.
what about the season 15 in itself?
I mean, I don't honestly. The ending, the finale is really the one that I remember the most, obviously, because
Mhm.
it was the most impactful.
Well, what about the story? So, like,
But the storyline, I think they knew what they were trying to accomplish, and I think they felt like they did a pretty good job of getting there.
I feel like the problem I had, which wasn't a huge problem, but I honestly, if you step back, I think in order to really be invested in season 12 to season 15, I think you definitely have to be a dedicated fan from a long time ago.
Yeah.
Or at least when you're binging, like, you'd have to watch it all and be really invested, because I don't think there's a lot of misses in there
Yeah.
that if I was just picking it up, like if I told someone to go watch Supernatural, you might like it, and they started there somewhere, and like we're watching episode here, episode there, I think they wouldn't get into it.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case. You
I
have to have
also,
that earlier
Mhm.
back history to
Right.
have the buy-in to
Well,
get
we
through
also got
it.
to realize that last season was it was a COVID season,
It was.
so like they got plagued by that.
Yep.
It was really hard, and according to what I heard, they were like pretty much the first major studio the show to start back up.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause they really wanted to get that last season. I think they had already known before COVID that was going to be their last season.
They
just hadn't
did.
talked about it. But where I was going with that is like the one thing that gave me a little bit of a, oh no, like why
Mm-hmm.
did we do this? I did not like the fact that everything the boys had done up to that point was controlled by God. Like he helped them win.
Yeah.
He helped them do all these things and become these great hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the one that
story.
did it, and it bugged me because it really deflated all the rest of the show.
What they had accomplished, yeah.
Right, because even it shows like they weren't really very good at. I mean, they were good hunters, but they weren't good at doing things after God had been muted.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have his help, so that's how Dean ends up. Spoiler: that's how Dean ends up dying. But I think from that aspect, that did sadden me a bit because it kind of took me out of it, because I'm like, really? So like, I prefer to think of the boys as just they did really good.
Mm-hmm.
They were unlikely heroes that like, oh, this is undaunting tasks, and they were able to do it.
Yeah.
And you think back to some of the key instances of what they overcame. It's like, damn, it was awesome because they overcame it. But now you're like, not so awesome because it really was God was keeping them
orchestrated,
safe, and
yes.
It was all puppetry.
Yeah.
Now, regardless of that part, if that part was taken out, I think I would have way better. I would have been really more in love with season 15. And I think them defeating God. It's like the ultimate boss. If you're gonna do the last season,
Yeah.
it's time to take on the ultimate boss. I feel like they didn't give Amara enough time on that show
Agreed.
either. So there's hits and misses. As a fanboy, I definitely liked it. Like I watched it all, and I'm like, and I kind of agree with you. Like the way they ended it, it's almost like, okay, they're happy.
Yeah, it's
They've
good.
done it. Everything's good. And I mean, I've told you how I think they could do. Now, when we talked about, like, when I was talking about a reboot, I definitely am not interested in a reboot so much,
Mm-mm.
but I would be okay with a continuation.
That's a little
Um,
different.
right. And so, like, I'm like, if they can continue, go into season 18, because some of the stuff I talked about is, you know, things happen in this world of supernatural,
Mm-hmm.
and now that all the other, like, the multiverse thing that they touched on, now that all got destroyed, and Jack basically recreated everything,
Mm-hmm.
and he's the new god. And God was left to die as a human on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like what they could play with is the idea of, because we've had plenty of times where Lucifer ended up in heaven to try to take over, blah 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 blah. I think you could have a season 18 where,
What about 16 and 17?
yeah, season 16. I don't know why I think they did 17 seasons.
I have
Somehow it's
no
in my
idea.
head, and I don't know why I do that. But I think a season 16 could really be played with, where something happens to Jack because God finds a way to still manipulate some of the stuff that really actually exists that he didn't just magically make happen.
Yeah.
And maybe he doesn't gain his powers back, but somehow gets to Jack, and then heaven's kind of messed up. And it would be nice for that season to be them trying to save heaven instead of saving Earth anymore. Or we got the dog poking up here. Lack of attention. I think she wants outside, huh? Anyway, she's like, bingo. Anyway, so like I think you could do that. You could take that in a way like, or make, I would rather have a movie.
Yeah.
I'd
Rather
rather
than
them
another
do
season.
a feature film instead of another season. But it is what it is, and I would, if they did, oh hey, season 16 is coming, I'd rather be watching season 16.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't not watch it. I just don't know with the reboot if I could do it. I don't know if I want to do it all over again.
Yeah, and I get that. I totally get what you're saying there. Like I was saying, it's like, oh, you want to have another baby? I don't know if I want to go through all that again.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think a reboot in the hands of people that would be doing a reboot, I'm not trusting of.
Mm-mm.
Because the first bit of it, like we were talking about with the movies, you have people who the studios aren't as involved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I think they would end up doing something that wasn't exactly what we would want. And who knows what the cast? I mean, I could see the benefit of a reboot to the studio to get a younger audience now, redo the whole thing. I just don't understand why we didn't get certain spin-offs. That kind of bugs me.
Yeah.
I think they panicked
Mm-hmm.
because they tried to do the pilot episodes of these different spin-offs
And it
within
didn't
the
go
show,
well. It
but it's
didn't
like
go well.
you're taking us out of Supernatural to do
Mhm.
it, so it didn't seem like it went well. But I do think that, like the Bloodlines one, I felt like could have been something. I just didn't like the way they presented it in the show. I also don't know why we never got some kind of spin-off with the Men of Letters. I think they would have done well to do a past spin-off with the Men of
Letters
Letters.
instead of the Winchesters.
Yes, and also what I thought the Winchesters was going to be, which it was just another universe. I thought it was going to be like just John and Mary, and then Mary doing all the hunting back then, like following Samuel and Mary, and them going on. You could have brought it back to Monster of the Week like they had before,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I was hoping for with that. Because it really confused me too, and the what put me out of the show, because I actually kind of liked. I thought the show was actually kind of good, which I didn't watch the whole thing because it's hard to watch when you're not going to watch it with me. But the biggest part was they didn't they felt like they were, because Jensen kept saying like, just give it time, you'll know why type thing, because they didn't tell us ahead of time, and you didn't know it was a different universe.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they were like, oh well, Mary and John are now hunting together, you're like, what?
That never happened.
That
That's
doesn't
not real.
work.
Yeah.
And so it kind of bugged people, and it rubbed them the wrong way, but it was because they were trying to do this thing, and oh well, this isn't the same universe. This is what would happen if John and Mary actually.
Yeah, that was one of the
Kinda
other
stayed
TV
together.
screens that God smashed.
Yeah, that was one of the other ones that got smashed. But yeah, I mean, I could go for more. The thing is there was some things that we didn't get enough of, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I do feel like we needed more Crowley than we got, even though we got a good amount. We needed more Crowley. We needed more John.
Absolutely. He's like in, what, 3 episodes?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's weird because you feel like John was in the show for longer.
Well, he was around for longer. He just didn't make any appearances. Many
Right.
appearances.
Right.
He got talked about all the time.
Right.
And so I think that's what carried that feeling,
Mm-hmm.
is that he was around longer than he
Right.
was.
And he died in season. Well, he got taken by the demons in season 2. Went to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't it season 2? It was like in the beginning of season 2.
2 or end of 1?
Well, end of 1, they get in the wreck.
Okay, that's right. So it would have been the first episode or 2
Right.
of 2.
Yeah. And then we get to see him a couple times again throughout the series, but not much. Like, you get to see him he clawed his way out of hell and helps with the yellow-eyed demon to close that story. And then later in season 14 or
It's later on. He
13.
comes back for a day.
Yeah, with Mary, and they get to have time together, which was cool, but it just so feels like he was a key component of the whole movie.
Series.
Yeah, the whole series, but yeah, he wasn't there very much.
No.
Not much screen time.
No, he really had very little screen time.
Right. And I feel like there was definitely a lot of wondering, like, I would say obviously season 7, your worst one, but from season 7 to like season 15, really. Like, there was a couple gaps in there where it's like, we don't know where we want to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it felt like.
For sure.
There
After
was
doing
some
it for
great
so long.
seasons in between.
Yeah. But after doing it for so long, it's, I think, hard to
Right.
have definitive direction.
Yeah, it really is. But
especially
I mean,
when you don't know if you're going to get renewed the next year.
don't know if you're. Well, I think they knew for a lot of them, but
For
the
a few
problem
ahead
was
of
is like,
time.
are we going to be able to pay this actor? Are we going to be able to get this character, keep this character going? Like, when
Mhm.
they switched Lucifer up, that was rough. When Lucifer was no longer Pellegrino.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
I loved Pellegrino. I didn't like the rock star. It didn't fit.
No.
And also didn't get a lot of Jack,
I felt
to be
we
honest.
got enough of him.
We got some, but his character was so key.
It was, but I wasn't as attached to him
Gotcha.
as a lot of the others.
One person that I don't understand, which Jack kind of became the surrogate version of.
That one kid that was in that one and only episode that was supposed to be
Yes.
the most powerful being ever.
He was the Antichrist.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that
Literally.
definitely was a loose end.
Never got tied up.
Nope.
Bugs me.
I know you bring it up all the time. I try to pretend it didn't happen so I don't have to think about
You
it.
have to pretend it didn't happen, I guess, because it's
Mhm.
like, where is he now? By the way,
Obviously, didn't
that
matter
could be
anymore.
16 right there.
He's of age now.
Well, God's gone, and if he was the Antichrist and more powerful, almost they build him out like he might be as
The
powerful
most
or more powerful than God.
being, yeah.
Maybe he fucking like, oh well, God's right here. That Jack guy that's trying to act like me is up there. I'm gonna get him.
Maybe.
That'll be fun. And I'd be like, yes, we finally figured it out. 'Cause it bugs the shit out of me. They made a big to-do about
Yeah, it
him,
was a big
and
deal.
then gone.
Yeah, one and only episode, never to be talked about again.
Never to be talked about again.
Like not even like dabbled, like mentioned, name dropped, nothing.
Now, what would you think because a lot of people say that they wish that Supernatural didn't go so hard in the paint with like continued like serial storylines because they missed the monster of the week type of shows. Um, did that ever really affect you that much?
Not overall.
No.
And I think, I mean, it was fun. I enjoyed it, and that's why I think when we do go back and rewatch, I do think we tend to rewatch the first like 4 seasons more heavily,
Mm-hmm.
um, just because they are kind of more of an easier watch
Mm.
in a way, because it is week to week, episode to episode. I mean, it has a little bit of an overarching story, but it's not like that's one episode's building up to another.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I almost kind of feel like that was their progression as
Mm-hmm.
they matured, as they got deeper into things, as they found out what scale things actually were.
Mm-hmm.
It grew with them. It got deeper into things as they learned more and they got deeper
Mm-hmm.
into it. So it kind of felt it didn't feel forced,
Mm-hmm.
but when they were young in the first few episodes, that's all that they knew existed.
Gotcha.
So it kind of made sense as they got deeper into things and they
Mm-hmm.
found out that it's this whole different world essentially.
Mm-hmm.
It made sense for it to be more focused on the bigger scheme rather than monster of the week.
Right, and I think it's great. Like the monster of the week is definitely what got everyone into the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like eventually, you're gonna piss off bigger and bigger bad guys.
Yeah, it's
And
you
where
have
you
to
gonna
grow.
go? And then you have the overarching because like you still have like I still feel like because the whole premise with Supernatural when you look at it, especially with Kripke's original run that he wanted to where he wanted to take these characters, you've still got it's a Cain and Abel thing, which they ended up touching on anyway, like in an official capacity. But it's just these brothers and they're meant to be whatever and fight each other and kill each other eventually. And when you get into the demon blood storylines, those overarching, like you could have done more of like, runs of episodes that were overarching and still continued the monster of the week after that. Um, but I still enjoyed a lot of it. Like a lot of when the angels came in, it was kind of an interesting thing because it did kind of change their whole focus because it's like, oh, now we're worried
The
about
whole
the
dynamic of the
apocalypse.
show changed at that
You're
point.
worried about the apocalypse. You're not worried about the vampire nest over there and the crazy creepy clown over there.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you wonder how much workload some of the other hunters ended up with.
Yeah.
Because they were now, dealing with
Focused
the
on the
biggest
big
thing
stuff.
that happens in the entire world, like world-ending events.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to say publicly about the Supernatural series is how inconsistent they kind of were with, like, are angels powerful or are they not powerful? Are demons powerful or are they not powerful? Like one moment they're holding the guys up, making them choke out, but then they can go hand-to-hand combat with the angels. They can go hand-to-hand combat for a little bit with the demons. I don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
It always bugged me a little bit.
I know.
I mean, how do you make for good television, I guess? I don't know. Even with maybe you can even say that with vampires.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. But overall, I don't hope for a reboot, and I don't necessarily even hope for a continuation.
No, that's where I'm at.
I would love a retcon of the last season and make God
satisfied.
not be pulling the strings all the time, but it kind of is already there, and it'd still be in the back of my mind.
Mm-hmm. So you just really want an alternate ending, is really what you're saying.
Not necessarily an alternate ending, but how that part needs to be removed.
Gotcha.
I want to know that it was the boys, and that it wasn't just God. It bugs me. I don't like it. It feels like it takes away from the power of the show.
Yeah.
Overall. But still my favorite show. Still the thing I like the most. Still love it. And I don't know, like I don't believe I would like you were saying, I'm just not gonna put in the time on a reboot
Mm-mm.
of that kind of show. And just officially, just to be out there with it, like these reboot talks are really just based on Jensen and Jared. Every time they're asked, like, would you like to explore the characters more? Blah blah blah. They're always like, yeah, we love these characters. We definitely want to explore them more. I mean, they're not necessarily, and also it's also rooted with when they've made comments of like, well, it never ends. Like, you never know, and this
Mm-hmm.
and that. But they're getting old.
Yeah.
Now, I really kind of wish there was some kind of lineage thing. I've always wanted that. Like,
Sam's
because
son.
yeah, that may be definitely be part of it. But like, if we did a continuation, you would almost have to minimize the boys.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe every once in a while they can be from heaven helping something out, but um, you'd almost want a spin-off rather than a continuation.
Yeah, I just
Like
think it's
where
done.
where you get like, now I don't understand why we didn't get like some kind of, well, I understand because they're not going to put a bunch of effort into some of this stuff, but like if I had my way, we would just extend the world and explore more. So you would get like the Men of Letters
Yeah.
spin-off series, maybe a few seasons of Men of Letters. And then I thought that they had a good idea with the Wayward Sisters. You know, I thought that would be
I
fun to
disagree.
watch.
I wouldn't have watched it.
Really?
The Men in Letters I can get behind.
So you're sexist.
Maybe. That's a different conversation for another day. Um, but
Uh,
why I think I would be a little bit more okay with that,
mhm.
it has nothing to do with the boys.
Gotcha. Okay, but it
It
does.
it leads up to what they become,
Right.
but it has nothing to do with them. They don't have to be talked about. They wouldn't be known. Like
Right.
it would be just its own self-contained little backstory.
Mm.
The spin-offs like of the current stream, like the Wayward Sisters or
Mm.
whatever, there would be too much potential intermingling and
Well, they're in
conflict
heaven.
and taking away. I don't know. I just it would to me it would take away from the boys.
Gotcha. Okay. That's. I mean, I appreciate that thought for sure. I could see that. Um, but I think like, yeah, mm, yeah, because the world still exists and there's still monsters. We know
There
that.
are, and that's fine. It's just I don't. It just
Like, who's
convolutes.
down there if the boys aren't down there,
It
and how
just
many hunters are even
convolutes
down
things
there?
for I don't know.
Right. Hmm. Interesting. It does, but I mean, if you wanted to, I'm just thinking like as a studio, like what would be the best approach? Like if I had a studio and they're like, "Hey, we want you to extend the supernatural universe somehow,"
Mm-hmm.
and maybe you can't play with, you know, the main toys.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and no matter how much Bobby was on, you still never got enough Bobby.
No,
Um,
I loved him. He's probably one of my favorites.
but because we know, like when they were in heaven before, and Ash was there and showing them how to move through different places,
Mm-hmm.
you could do. I think you can do stuff up there. And I would also wouldn't mind having like some kind of series that showed like um heavens type of issues, like the fights that they had up there. Um, I think it might be cool to see if you wanted to do something that sparsed out the boys, but was almost like a prequel, not prequel, but kind of takes place like show, maybe do a show with Crowley, but
Yeah.
in the moments in between when we didn't see him, and lead up to the certain moments of the old show, but kind of following him after that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because it feels like there's a lot there in hell and different places going on with Crowley. I don't know. Yeah, maybe not. But also, what is Cass even doing now? Like, what would Cass be doing in heaven?
I don't know.
Because if they've pretty much fixed everything, is he just helping people on Earth sometimes? Like, is Jack just sending him down there?
I
Exactly.
guess.
That's kind of where I'm going with that. But yeah, all the rumors for the reboot, I don't believe them.
I think they purposely say things just to spark.
Just to keep themselves relevant.
Yeah, just to
Yeah.
spark a little. Ooh.
Ooh, we might get more of the boys.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really think I care enough. I think I'm okay with rewatching what we had
Yeah.
and holding on to that. Things have to end. And sometimes you just gotta leave it alone.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they ever were to reboot Supernatural, it really needs to be. You'd probably have to do it in the next like 30 years or 50 years or something.
Yeah, wait till I'm too old to pay attention and it won't bother me anyway.
Sure, but at the same time, you're still not getting. Like, you need a generation. You need enough generations that don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
And then
Completely
be one of
blank
those
slate.
shows where you're like, oh, that was a reboot?
Mhm.
That's the only way you'd be able to do it, I think, in my opinion. Especially with new actors.
Mhm.
It's a real Supernatural's definitely got such a rabid cult following that a new Sam and Dean
I would be
is
pissed.
gonna be really
I
hard
would
to
be
pull
pissed.
off.
That's another reason why I'm like, I don't want to start.
Right.
I knew it couldn't be them for
Right.
a true reboot.
Yeah. Especially if you did reboot and did it with the same storyline. But I do think you could do, like I said, you could do prequel boots, like prequel
Yeah.
spin-offs and stuff. I think they would work. I think I would love to see adventures that happen with the Men of Letters, because then you get Abaddon back. You can
Yeah,
get
and that's
all
another
that back. You get John's dad.
personal
You
preference
get
thing though.
Samuel.
But that era,
Right.
I found super interesting.
Right, for sure. So it'd be definitely a lot of different, and they'd be learning the things that they already had known, like that Supernatural already kind of knows
Mhm.
from the outset.
Yeah.
You would see how they collected this information and did all these
Yeah.
things.
And they could do. I mean, I kind of am torn because I like the idea of it just being Men of Letters focused,
Mm-hmm.
which is the Winchester side,
Mm-hmm.
but then also throwing in Mary and
Mhm.
Samuel. I can't remember Samuel's wife's name. It had something to do with Dean,
Diana.
something like that. Yep. Anyway, following them as well, that I would be okay with too. I don't know if I would want to combine them
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know. I feel like Men of Letters is more 50s, 40s, 50s,
Mm-hmm.
and then Mary's upbringing would be more like 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
So I don't think you could intertwine them very well.
Not in a real.
I don't think it would fit. Like
No.
you could try. I don't think it
No.
would feel natural.
But so then you could do Men of Letters, and then you could do Mary. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to add John into that.
No.
But you could do like real young Mary
Mm-hmm.
with
Yeah.
Samuel Cates or
Mhm.
Samuel Cates.
I don't remember her maiden name, and it's gonna.
I want to say
Bug
it's
me.
Cates. Oops. Did your mic go out?
No.
Okay.
I'm just like I don't remember.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think you could do something like that. I think that would be fun because, like you said, the era would also be cool. Another thing that would be pretty neat, in my opinion, to see, also not neat at the same time, like I don't know if you could like maybe a 5-part miniseries on, would be to see what things were like with all these people, hunters and stuff during like World War II and stuff, like in the battles. Like, did they have hunters or hanging around that knew, but they got drafted,
Uh-huh.
and so not, and then you have the whole Nazi occultism stuff, which I don't even know if we're allowed to say that word on here, but you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like going in there and
Taking a
seeing
hunter's standpoint
and
on the
seeing
war.
them deal with that stuff to protect their buddies from things like that. And everyone else is worried about dying, but they're like, yeah, but there are worse things out here.
Yeah.
I think that'd be fun to explore. I just don't think you can hold a whole show
No, but that would be
like multiple
fun.
seasons, but like a 5-part miniseries on
Yeah.
it or something like that. I think would be incredible. But yeah, overall, I'm happy with Supernatural. I don't want them to reboot it.
No.
Like if I had a gun to my head, don't reboot it. We don't need any more seasons. Love the boys, love it all, but
I'm
don't make me
satisfied.
watch it.
That's the biggest thing. That's my
Right.
overarching theme.
Because it would be
I'm
like
satisfied.
going back to the analogy I had. Like, do we want to have another baby? Like, if we did have another baby, like we would love it, and we would be paying attention to it and all that. But we didn't necessarily want to.
Yeah. I want all that
Yes,
responsibility.
don't put that juju on me.
Mm-mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So yeah, that's about all we have for that subject. Really, we kind of kicked it in the butt. I mean, we could eventually down the podcast, if we wanted to do more supernatural stuff, we could talk about different episodes.
Oh yeah. That's
We
easy.
might be able to do just maybe branch off and maybe like at the end of one of our podcasts, we do like an hour on supernatural specific and turn that into a supernatural podcast and just throw that into its own channel
Mm-hmm.
or its own playlist or whatever. But I think we've kind of come to a good logical ending.
Feels good.
Does feel good. Hopefully everything was good with you
Yeah.
today. Hopefully
Was.
we're all having a good time. Okay, guys, so we're going to wrap up the Frenzie Fam podcast episode 2. Thank you for being here, watching at a future date, I'm sure. But make sure you, if you enjoyed this at all, or if you think it's worth watching, please click the notification bell, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share the show with your friends because that will help the channel grow. And we want to hear from more people. So remember, you can catch us on. We're going to be live on YouTube every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific time for the Frenzie Fam podcast. I don't know what this topic is going to be next week because we kind of wait and try to fill that out. But yeah, do all that jazz. Remember, we are also on Rumble Frenzie Films. We are on. You can catch us on Twitch Frenzie Films and all the other places. Facebook's Frenzie Film Stream Team.
Yep.
And Instagram is Frenzie Films Official. And then both of our, well, that's Lady Frenzie on TikTok. I'm Frenzie Films on TikTok. You could also follow the Frenzie Films Facebook page if you